The bustling streets of downtown Los Angeles were alive with energy as night fell over the city. Neon lights illuminated the urban skyline, casting a colorful glow on the crowd that gathered outside the Harmony Outreach Center, a well-known nonprofit organization that supported underprivileged children and families. Tonight, the center was hosting its biggest fundraiser of the year, a casual but meaningful event designed to bring people together for a shared cause. Inside the center, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. The space was warm and inviting, filled with cheerful chatter, laughter, and the scent of freshly baked goods donated by local businesses. Volunteers moved through the room, carrying trays of hors d'oeuvres and greeting guests with bright smiles. Among the crowd were families who had benefited from the center's programs, sharing their stories of hope and resilience. Ivanka Trump stood near a display of artwork created by the children of the center, her face lighting up as she admired their work. Dressed in a simple yet elegant navy blouse and tailored slacks, she blended seamlessly with the crowd. Unlike the high-profile galas she was accustomed to, this event felt personal, even intimate, and Ivanka had come here not as a celebrity or a former first daughter, but as a woman who cared deeply about helping children. As she spoke with parents and volunteers, it was clear she was deeply invested in the cause. She listened attentively as a young single mother explained how the center's mentorship program had helped her son thrive in school. "It's stories like yours that remind me why this work matters so much," Ivanka said warmly, placing a hand on the woman's shoulder. The crowd grew quiet as the event coordinator stepped up to the small stage at the front of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "thank you all for being here tonight. Your support means everything to the families and children we serve. And now, I'm honored to introduce someone who has been a tireless advocate for education and empowerment, Ivanka Trump." The audience broke into applause as Ivanka made her way to the stage, smiling graciously. She stepped up to the microphone and took a moment to survey the room. Unlike the grandeur of a formal ballroom, this setting was raw and real, and that made it all the more meaningful. "Good evening," she began, her voice carrying a calm confidence. "It's truly a privilege to be here with all of you tonight. This center embodies everything I believe in: hope, opportunity, and community. Every child deserves a chance to dream big, and places like this make those dreams possible." Her words resonated with the audience. Parents nodded, volunteers smiled, and even the children in the room seemed captivated. But as Ivanka continued, someone at the back of the room stirred with visible discomfort. Daniel Harris, a self-proclaimed activist, leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, his sharp eyes fixed on Ivanka. Daniel was no stranger to these events, though he rarely attended as a supporter. He considered himself a watchdog, attending to challenge public figures he believed were insincere. To him, Ivanka Trump represented everything he resented: privilege, wealth, and a family he held responsible for divisive policies. As the speech concluded and the audience erupted into applause, Daniel saw his moment. He stepped forward, raising his hand high. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice cutting through the cheers. "I have a question." The room grew quiet as heads turned toward him. Ivanka, ever composed, gestured for him to proceed. "Of course," she said. "Go ahead." Daniel stepped closer to the stage, his voice sharp and confrontational. "You stand here talking about hope and opportunity, but what about the families your family's policies have hurt? How can you claim to support these children when you've been part of an administration that, in many ways, made their lives harder?" A wave of unease swept through the room. Some guests exchanged worried glances, while others bristled at the disrespectful tone. A few whispered among themselves, wondering how Ivanka would handle the attack. Ivanka took a deep breath, her expression calm but focused. She stepped away from the podium slightly, addressing Daniel directly. "Thank you for your question," she said, her tone steady and sincere. "I understand your concerns, and I respect your right to voice them. But I'd like to share something with you." The tension in the room was palpable as she continued, her voice carrying both strength and empathy. I've spent years working with families and children, hearing their stories and understanding their struggles. I know there's more work to be done, and I've never claimed to have all the answers. But I believe that change starts with action, not words. That's why I'm here tonight. Not to talk about the past, but to focus on what we can do to create a better future. Daniel folded his arms, unimpressed. That's a nice sentiment, but it doesn't erase the harm that's already been done. Don't you think it's hypocritical to stand here and talk about opportunity when your privilege shields you from the struggles these families face every day? Ivanka nodded, acknowledging the weight of his question. Privilege is a reality, she said, and I won't deny mine. But privilege is not an excuse to sit on the sidelines. It's a responsibility to do better. For those who don't have the same advantages. I don't pretend to understand every struggle, but I'm here to listen, to learn, and to take action. That's what tonight is about. Her words seemed to hang in the air, filling the silence that followed. The audience watched intently, many visibly moved by her sincerity. Even Daniel, who had come prepared to confront her, found himself momentarily at a loss for words. Ivanka continued, her voice softening. I believe we can disagree without being disagreeable. And while we may not see eye to eye on everything, I hope we can agree on one thing. Every child deserves a chance to succeed. That's what I'm fighting for, and I hope you'll join me in that fight. The room erupted into applause, louder this time, as Ivanka stepped back to the podium. Daniel stood still, his expression conflicted. He had come to challenge her, but her calm and thoughtful response had left him questioning his assumptions. As the applause echoed through the room, Daniel Harris shifted uncomfortably in his spot. He had expected Ivanka to stumble, to react defensively, or to dodge his pointed questions. But instead, she had responded with a calm confidence that disarmed him. For a moment, he found himself replaying her words in his mind. Privilege isn't an excuse to sit on the sidelines. It's a responsibility to do better. Still, Daniel wasn't entirely convinced. As the event continued, he lingered near the back of the room, observing Ivanka as she mingled with the crowd. She moved gracefully from one group to the next, listening intently to parents and volunteers who shared their stories. Her interactions didn't seem forced or superficial. Instead, she appeared genuinely invested in the people around her. After a while, Daniel noticed a young boy approach Ivanka, clutching a drawing in his hands. The boy, no older than 9, wore a slightly oversized sweater and sneakers that had seen better days. His face lit up as Ivanka knelt down to his level, taking the drawing from him with a warm smile. "This is beautiful," she said, holding up the colorful picture of a sun shining over a small house. "Did you make this?" The boy nodded eagerly. "Yeah. It's for you. My mom says you're helping kids like me, so I wanted to say thank you." Ivanka's smile softened. "Thank you, sweetheart. This means so much to me. You're very talented." The boy's mother, standing nearby, wiped away a tear as she watched the exchange. Daniel felt a twinge of guilt as he observed the scene. He had come here ready to condemn Ivanka, to expose what he believed was hypocrisy. But seeing her interact with the boy, so genuine and kind, complicated his perspective. Still, the activist in him wasn't ready to back down. As the event began to wind down and guests started to leave, Daniel made his way to one of the volunteers, a woman named Grace who had been helping coordinate the evening. She was middle-aged, with kind eyes and a welcoming demeanor. "Hey," Daniel said, his tone casual but probing. "Can I ask you something?" Grace smiled. "Of course. What's on your mind? What do you think about Ivanka Trump being here?" he asked. "Do you really think she cares about this cause, or is this just another PR move?" Grace paused, clearly taken aback by the question. After a moment, she replied, I've been volunteering at this center for over a decade. I've seen a lot of people come through those doors. Politicians, celebrities, all kinds of folks who want to be part of something good. Some stay for the photos and leave. Others stick around because they genuinely care. And Ivanka?" Daniel pressed. Grace smiled again, But this time there was a note of firmness in her voice. She's the real deal. She's been involved with the center for over a year now, and it's not just about writing checks. She shows up, she listens, and she follows through. She's helped us get resources we never thought we'd have, and more importantly, she treats everyone here with respect. So, yeah, I think she cares. Daniel thanked Grace and walked away, her words lingering in his mind. He had come here expecting to find evidence to support his skepticism, but instead, he was faced with stories that painted a very different picture. Still conflicted, he decided to stay a little longer, hoping to find clarity. As Ivanka prepared to leave, she paused near the door to thank the event staff. Daniel seized the opportunity and approached her. "Ms. Trump," he called out, his tone less confrontational than before. Ivanka turned, her expression open and calm. "Yes. Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. "Of course," she said, stepping aside from the departing crowd. "What's on your mind?" Daniel hesitated, the sharpness he had prepared earlier slipping away. "Look, I'll be honest. I didn't come here tonight as a supporter. I came to challenge you because I've always seen your family as part of the problem, not the solution." Ivanka nodded, her gaze steady. "I appreciate your honesty, but," Daniel continued, "I've been watching you tonight and I don't know. Maybe I was wrong about some things. I've seen the way you've interacted with people here, and it doesn't feel fake. It feels real." "Thank you," Ivanka said, her voice soft. "I understand that not everyone will agree with me or my family, and that's okay. What matters to me is making a difference where I can. It's not about changing everyone's mind. It's about helping those who need it most." Daniel looked at her, searching for any sign of insincerity, but found none. For the first time in years, he felt his convictions waver. "Do you really think you can make a difference?" he asked quietly. "I do," Ivanka replied, "but not alone. It takes all of us, whether we agree on everything or not. Kindness, empathy, and action transcend politics. That's what I believe, and that's what I'll keep working toward." Her words struck a chord with Daniel. He nodded slowly, his mind racing with conflicting thoughts. "Well," he said finally, "I guess I'll have to keep watching." Ivanka smiled. "I hope you do. And if you ever want to talk more, I'm here." With that, she turned and walked toward the door, leaving Daniel standing in the middle of the now emptying room. He stayed there for a while, processing everything he had seen and heard. For the first time in a long time, he felt something he hadn't expected, the faintest glimmer of hope. A week after the event at the Harmony Outreach Center, Daniel Harris found himself sitting at his small kitchen table, staring at the notes he had taken that night. His initial plan had been to write a scathing article about Ivanka Trump and her supposed hypocrisy. But every time he tried to start, his mind drifted back to the moments he had witnessed. The single mother tearfully thanking Ivanka, the young boy proudly offering her his drawing, and, most of all, the calm sincerity with which she had answered his questions. He sighed, leaning back in his chair. For years, he had built his identity around challenging figures of privilege and power, convinced they couldn't possibly understand the struggles of ordinary people. But that night, something had shifted. Ivanka hadn't reacted defensively or dismissed him. She had listened, answered thoughtfully, and in her own way, extended an olive branch. Unable to shake the impact of the event, Daniel decided to visit the center again. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Maybe closure, or perhaps a better understanding of the work Ivanka had been supporting. When he arrived, he was greeted by Grace, the volunteer he had spoken to before. "Back again?" she said with a smile. "Yeah," Daniel replied, a bit sheepishly. "I guess I just wanted to see how things are going." Grace led him through the center, where children were playing, drawing, and laughing. Parents sat in small groups, talking and sharing stories, while volunteers helped organize supplies. The atmosphere was warm and hopeful, a stark contrast to the cynicism Daniel often carried with him. As they walked, Grace shared more about the center's work and Ivanka's involvement. "You know," She said, "It's easy to judge people from a distance, but when you see the impact up close, it changes things." She's made a real difference here. Daniel nodded silently, taking it all in. For the first time, he realized that his activism didn't have to be about tearing people down. It could also be about building bridges and finding common ground. Later that evening, Daniel sat at his desk once again, this time writing a very different article than the one he had originally planned. Instead of focusing on his criticisms, he wrote about the power of dialogue, the importance of empathy, and the need to focus on shared goals. He titled the piece, "What I Learned When I Challenged Ivanka Trump." The article went viral, sparking conversations about the importance of moving beyond political divides to work toward meaningful change. People from all sides of the spectrum shared their thoughts, with many acknowledging the need for more moments like the one Daniel had experienced. As for Ivanka, she continued her work quietly, undeterred by the noise of public opinion. For her, the true reward was seeing the smiles of the children whose lives were being transformed. And for Daniel, that single night at the Outreach Center marked a turning point, not just in how he saw Ivanka, but in how he approached his own role in creating change. In the end, it wasn't about who was right or wrong. It was about what could be accomplished when people chose kindness over division and action over words. And in that small but powerful way, the night became a reminder that even the deepest divides can be bridged with empathy and understanding.